Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, joins us now. Tony, it's great to see you. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. It's good to be with you this afternoon.
It was really kind of jarring, I think, to listen to the testimony from that young lady there testifying before the Senate committee. And, you know, we've seen this a lot. It's so easy for these social media sites to ban stories about vaccines and conservatives concerned about Hunter Biden's laptop. But yet when it comes to little girls seeking out healthy recipes, they're being fed stuff about anorexia and eating disorders. So what's going on here with big tech?
Well, you know, this is not new. Back when the Republicans had control in the Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham had hearings into this. And, of course, it was Democrats wanted to block it. They wanted to protect their allies in the social media world. And so we've known this for quite some time, the connection with increased depression, suicidal tendencies based upon online the amount of time spent online and obviously the content online. But it's an interesting aspect where you have the Democrats who are trying to protect in many ways this content that is toxic for children. And we know this now. There's a growing body of research that makes this very clear. But at the same time, working to block conservative content that could counterbalance this. For instance, you know, the fact that you have what could be one of the most significant spiritual revivals taking place in America that hasn't happened in about 5 decades in Asbury University in Kentucky, where the students there for the last week have been experiencing this revival. How many networks are out there covering that and focusing on the fact that there are young people that are breaking away from social media, breaking away from this negative content, finding hope, purpose, and meaning? That's why we need to have a free market of ideas being shared across these platforms. And we know we are not there. There is a lot of work to be done.
There is a lot of work to be done. Let's talk a little bit more about the censorship of conservative voices, because we have that happening with Newsmax and AT&T and DirecTV. President Trump even weighing in on this. He calls the decision disgusting. He posted this on Truth Social over the weekend. Quote, AT&T must reinstate Newsmax immediately because it's only going to get worse for AT&T as people flock to leave both their stock and their platform. Welcome to the Trump era, he says. I don't know what that means if he gets reelected. But what is your take on AT&T and their censorship of Newsmax?
Yeah, here's my take. As a former chair, I was formerly the chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, a bipartisan commission that looked at religious freedom internationally. I was sanctioned by China for speaking out against their abusive tactics. And so I was sanctioned by them. Well, what has to happen there is we have to have citizens that take responsibility for pushing back on the oppressive regime of China, since we have an administration that's so friendly with them. How do you do that? Well, you don't buy all the products at Walmart. You don't go to these places where everything's made in China. Well, how do you push back on a repressive organization like AT&T that wants to do the same thing, essentially censor Newsmax for having a conservative voice? What do? Well, you don't buy AT&T products. I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm looking how do I change my phone from AT&T to another service. And that's what Americans have to do. Now, we know that their margins are pretty wide because they've already taken a $10 billion hit on the stock market. So it's not all about profit for them. They're driven by ideology. But here's the thing that they're going to find out. Stockholders, they're in this to make money. They're not here to bolster AT&T's liberal agenda or leftist agenda. And so it's going to be interesting to see if stockholders, if this continues, if shareholders of AT&T may take legal action against AT&T for not upholding their fiduciary duty of the investment of these shareholders.
That's a word that's come up twice today on this program, fiduciary responsibilities. It means that they have to do their best to actually bring you a positive return on your investment. That seems to go against what's happening with a lot of this ESG investing and the like. You mentioned the repressive regime of China and these totalitarian governments, how they want to suppress information. I want to focus, based on that, on something that Congresswoman Victoria Sparks said in a statement. The issue of deplatforming Newsmax and removing other non-conforming accounts by large communication oligopolies is not just an issue of censorship spreading like a plague in our country, but also an issue of government-created, protected, and subsidized monopolies turning us into an oligarchy. If we continue down this path, we will start resembling a totalitarian country very soon. The House Judiciary Committee, responsible for protecting our constitutional rights, has a duty to start dealing with this issue urgently. And she should know. I mean, she came from Ukraine. She fled Soviet-style oppression and the totalitarian media monopolies that exist in those types of countries.
It doesn't happen overnight. We need to take action now.
Said short, simply, and sweet. Tony Perkins, great to see you, sir. Thank you for your time, as always. Appreciate it.
All right.